Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Imagine Science Experimenta series. This week, we are having our second episode of Fieldwork World Cup called Temple, where we're going to be discussing sustainable architecture and design, all about stadium design, specifically for the World Cup, as well as other sports, and kind of the impact of stadiums and arenas on the culture of the community, how they're designed, and we have two experts that we'll be discussing this with today. We have Alessandra Araujo, who is in Sao Paulo right now, who contributed to some of the conceptual design for the stadiums. And then we have Christopher Lee as well, who will be joining us today, who is an architect and specializes in stadium and arena design. So Alessandra, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this field of work?
Yes. I'm biologist, and it's been almost 12 years that I'm coordinating projects, design projects, in GCP, as you said, GCP. And I work for the Arena Pantanal since 2009. So I not only coordinate the project, but I was in charge to make it more, I would say, green, like strategies for sustainability.
Great. and Christopher, you were involved more with the actual construction and oversight of building the stadiums. Now, do you want to talk a little bit about your involvement?
Yeah, well, I'm a stadium architect. Originally grew up in Australia. Started designing stadiums in Sydney for the Olympics in 2000. Now I'm based in London again, and have worked on a whole series of World Cup stadiums, from the last World Cup in South Africa for the main stadium in Salt City, through to the one we've just completed in Natal for this World Cup.
Wow. So how, I guess you want to start from the beginning of, from start to finish, how do you start with building such a large structure? Where do you begin? I know, Alessandra, you were mentioning that you started with kind of the conceptual design of the stadiums at first. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your involvement with specifically the stadiums for the World Cup?
Yes, of course. Cuiabá was selected to be one of the host cities for the World Cup, and we were invited from the government to present a conceptual design. So I joined the project since the very beginning, since this request from the government, and we did the conceptual. I wouldn't say conceptual design, but the conceptual design for this Arena World Cup to be approved for FIFA. And then it went through a lot of administration kind of things, and we were hired from the government to design the stadium, and then we started. So I was in the team since the first scratch, and since last week, then we heard that some of the lights were not adjusted very well for the illuminating the field. So since the first game, I would say.
So was sustainability an initial thought in beginning to plan the stadiums?
Yes, actually, one of the main, I would say, what really attracts the government to talk with us is because GCP is one of the Brazilian architecture practices that really looks for sustainability, and not that we only look for sustainability since sustainability starts to be, I would say, a trend, but as a responsible architecture. And we do a lot of industries, we do a lot of designs that has to be very efficient. So the idea was to have an arena that could perform really well in just very hot conditions, very hot weather, as it is in Cuiabá.
Yeah.
So, yes, since from the very beginning. That was the main concern. Not the main concern because it's just a too big project, but it was one of the most important issues.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So Chris,
request, actually.
at what point in the design process do you come in and really start building this structure?
Well, we're the designers of the facilities.
Okay.
So in Natal, for example, we were invited by the state government of Rio Grande do Norte when they were bidding. So the process works that a whole series, I think there were 18 cities in Brazil, put forward proposals to say we'd like to host a game in the World Cup. And out of that, they selected a number of stadiums. So we did the original bid work for the city. They were selected for a group game, and then we developed the conceptual designs beyond the bid work through to completion and the 2 recent games that have been held there in the last week.
Wow. So how does the process of bidding and choosing where these stadiums are going to be built, how is that developed versus a more commercial building?
Well, I mean, it's not unlike the countries bidding for the World Cup in many ways. It's really based on why you think the city is a great city, what infrastructure it already has, what are the transportation links, how many hotels, what's the experience for a spectator going to be like, is a pretty critical thing. Equally, FIFA are very interested in, how the game can be used to leverage infrastructure improvement. So in Natal, for example, they had long wanted to build an international airport. Natal is a fantastic location. It's right in the northeast. It's only a 7-hour flight from Miami, 7.5-hour flight from Lisbon, say. A fantastic tourist destination. But the hosting the World Cup game gave them the opportunity to say, we have a fixed date, the game is going to happen, we need to get this infrastructure in place. And it was one of the key things behind getting a major international airport there.
Yeah. So is sustainability, I guess in your experience of designing stadiums and arenas, a general concern when building these structures, or does it really vary from city to city?
No, it very much. I mean, we pioneered the work. In fact, the first stadium I said I worked on in Sydney for the 2000 Olympics, which was the Green Olympics, was Sydney's tagline. So we pioneered an enormous amount of work on that building, everything from rainwater harvesting, so all the water that fell on the roof was collected, reused to flush toilets and the likes in the stadium, photovoltaics, and that work has continued in the preceding 20 years since then, really. Through to developing, we just had a LEED Platinum stadium certified in the States, in Miami, for the ballpark down there. So yeah, it's increasingly a concern, and depending certainly around the world.
Right.
As a lot of these projects are publicly funded in some way, most of the municipalities will demand some kind of sustainable.
So maybe both of you want to answer this question. What are some of the key components that make the stadium sustainable? Like, what are some options that you can add on or build into the structure itself?
Well, I think the key thing is, and I think really stadiums are very unusual. They're not like an office block. So in an office block, for example, sustainable payback time very much is about the operating costs. How do we reduce the operating costs? And the cost of operating an office block pretty much surpass the kind of costs of constructing the building in about 8 to 10 years. In a stadium, because one, they're so large, and compared to an office block are used so rarely, it's more like 80 years. So for us, the big agenda in sustainable stadium design is making very lightweight buildings. So as little material as you can, as low embodied energy as you can within the construction, is really where a lot of the effort is put at. So things like we did the Olympic Stadium in London for the last Olympics. So
the actual materials that you build the structure out, of itself are sustainable.
The materials, but also making the building light, the structural system. So London, which actually you can probably see just behind me, is a model of the section of the London Olympic Stadium.
Wow.
Used about a third of the weight of steel compared to the previous main stadium for the Olympics in Beijing. So an incredibly small and lightweight building was very much the agenda.
So Alessandra, you were mentioning, and putting more green plants and other things like that into the stadiums. Do you want to speak a little bit about your involvement with that?
Yes, I agree with Christopher. The idea when we designed Arena Pantanal was to save material at the most. I think this is the first step, like the shape, the form. So since we know some of the corners that they doesn't allow the best visibility, the idea was to have just like the four stands and all the corners that are open, because most of the corners, they have some visibility issues. So we concentrated to have the best visibility issues at the four stands, and we use the corners to be open areas. So if you look at the plants of Arena Pantanal, the corners are open, and the bottom you have a garden, and what it closes the stands is a membrane that has a lot of little holes. Right. So the ventilation could cross in and out of the corners, not only out of the stands, which has the same membrane. So besides the stands, which is like truly a heavy structure, because you have all this sort of I forgot the energy, but you have all of this weight, and you have to make it very stable, I would say. I'm missing the word. You have to make it safe, so you need mass, you need structure to make it hard, whatever.
Yeah.
Besides that, what we did is pretty much a light structure to make the bowl of the stadium, and close it with a PVC membrane, which allows some ventilation. So the whole design was really focused to have a very permeable facade, a very permeable shell. And this, of course, just saves a lot of material, because you just focusing to have material where it's needed, where it's necessary.
Right. So that's interesting that you said, fitting in and having good visibility of the games is obviously something that's incorporated into the design. So kind of with that aspect really affecting the design of the stadium itself, we're really interested in the idea of stadiums and arenas being like temples in a certain way. I mean, all of these people gather there for a certain reason, all, kind of chanting for their different teams, and it's kind of this really peaceful place in a way, because people from all different walks of life come together to enjoy the games. So does that idea of kind of a stadium being a temple or a community-oriented place affect the design at all?
Yeah, I think it does. I think, there have been lots of recent quotes of saying, stadia are the new cathedrals, and I think in many ways that's right on certain levels. I mean, in our daily lives, we don't often get to sit with 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 people in a single space with the kind of common objective of your team. So the idea of community, I think, is incredibly important in this idea of being part of a single mass, which makes the experience, and as designers, that's what we're interested in, really.
Yeah. So Alessandra, sorry. So Alessandra, I know that you're located in Brazil now, and so obviously in the news we all know that there's been some controversy with the stadiums kind of being built where they've been built and how they're impacting the communities. Do you want to comment on being on the ground there and your experience with?
Yes, of course. First, I think football in Brazil is a huge thing, as everybody knows. So the stadiums, they are a temple in a way, because people put on a lot of love. It's like the biggest party when we have World Cup. It doesn't matter where it is. It's always a big party. So people join together. The streets are painted with green and yellow. It's flags everywhere, and the cars at the windows. So when it turns to be Brazil, I think everybody accepts it in a very good way. The issues about the protests and all the economic matters, of this World Cup, it's more into how the government invests the money, how the government manages the very important issues. So the controversial about the World Cup, it was why we are building stadiums and we need more hospitals, why we are doing this and we need that. And I think this is just a very shallow frame of the political understanding, in my humble opinion. I think management, government management, it's much more a serious issue. It doesn't matter if you have a very huge hospital or a small hospital. The management is always a big issue, and I think we have a lack of management here, public management. So the people, it's really, I think that the Brazilians are really, I would say, tired in a way about things that should be working and they are not working. But when the World Cup started, if you follow the TV, if you follow the games, the stadiums are full capacity. Everybody is singing, dancing, and enjoying, like all the foreigners. What I'm following, all the foreigners they are in Brazil, they are happy. They are saying, oh, you guys are nice people. Yes, we are, I think so. So it's been a party. I think it's been turned out to be a very good environment. I hope and I think most of the people are having fun. And my biggest hope is after the World Cup, we fall into the politician, we fall into the elections, and we are more conscious about who we're gonna go for election, who is important to elect. So that's my point of view.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So, has there been any, I guess, positive attention towards the structure of the stadiums themselves and how incredible, the design is and the sustainability, or has that kind of been overlooked by kind of all the politics happening right now?
No, I think the game retains all the attentions, like the goals and the people. They're stealing all the attention. People comment, oh, this stadium it's nice, this other one is beautiful, but what really matters is goals and and players and game and people making parties. I think that's what is in the news most of the time. It's like a fever,
Well, here in focusing on the stadiums and highlighting that today rather than the game itself, I would love to show a couple of images of the designs that your company has developed. I'm going to do a screen share and I'll pull a couple of those up. So this is the first one I'd like to talk about. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your involvement in designing the structure?
Yes. What I think Varena Pantanal turns out to be a very unique design for a stadium. We were really focused to deliver a park to the city. So if you look at the north area, if you look at the north parts of the site plan, you see there's not even a lake, but it's a little piece of water. And after back to this area, we have almost 2,500 trees, and they were native trees. And so we try to reproduce a little bit of the environment that was there. They were not conserved. It was not wealthy, and we try to enhance that and to make it bigger and healthy. So we work pretty much to how to recompose those native areas with native trees, and all the surrounding of the arena you find a lot of trees. Besides this arena is a LEED project, so we have to meet all the parameters, all the design obligations for a LEED project, and we are harvesting the rainwater. We have a wastewater facility for a small portion of the capacity to not like overput or overspend money with systems, because as Christopher said, the stadium, they have a daily usage, and they have a weekly usage, and they have a monthly usage. So it was a waste of money to have a waste facility, a wastewater treatment facility for the full capacity. So we study like what would be the average capacity to have this, to be attended by this wastewater facility. So we really studied a lot of engineering systems in order to be more feasible to the sites, to the Cuiabá city. But what I like most as being a biologist, of course, is the trees, and we were really concerned about having flowers in every month. And so, and any month of the year we get to have some trees with different colors of flowers. And what is very nice about this project that we heard a lot from the people from the city, that people it's using the exterior area outside the arena. So people are doing skateboards, they're jogging. Families having taking their kids to a park. So
they really use it, and kind of all the time, all year round. It's part of the community or part of the city.
See, that's, I think it's a big legacy. That's what our concern, and not to put, as everybody says, this white elephant in a middle of a site and not giving anything to the city. Right. And plus, I don't know if I mentioned this or it's already new, but this arena was designed to have a capacity flexibility. So the north and the south stands, they can be dismounted, and they can reduce in almost half capacity. So if the government wants to reduce the capacity of the arena after the World Cup, it can reduce to be around 20,000 people. So I think this is another very important strategy regarding sustainability.
Yeah. So, Christopher, you've been involved with building stadiums and arenas all over the world. Have you noticed any, specific differences between building stadiums culture to culture? Alessandra was mentioning, a whole bunch of green and trees and native trees and flowers. Is this common from each country that you've worked in?
Yeah, well, I think our job as architects, moving around the world, whether we're doing a project in Mexico or Texas, is to sort of understand the local culture, understand what the building means, understand what the immediate context in the city, and how you can leverage the facility to make the environment a better place, whether it's a park, like Alessandra is saying, or really, you name it. I think sport and particularly these large facilities have an immense power to shape our urban environment. They're so big. Their infrastructure requires to supply them, whether it's public transportation, electricity, any of these things can be shaped to make the environment a better place. And really, the legacy of these major events is actually the key thing. When you think about an Olympic Games or a World Cup, we're talking 2 or 4 weeks.
Right.
These facilities have a lifespan of 20, 30, 40 years, and their impact on their context and their cities is huge and long lasting. So I think our responsibility as architects is to make the place considerably better than when we came.
So what's been your most challenging project so far?
All these projects have fantastic challenges and opportunities. World Cups and Olympics, really in many ways, there's an immovable date. The game is going to happen, the event is going to happen, the opening ceremony for the Olympics in London is going to happen at a certain date at a certain time. So the buildings have to be ready. So an immovable date focuses everyone's mind on the challenge you have ahead, and they are enormous challenges. You're talking about 2.5 years to build most of these facilities, probably a not dissimilar time to design them. You have teams of 300 or 400 designers, engineers, and then contracting the guys actually build them, 1,500, 2,000 people on site. So as just a logistics exercise, they're enormous over a long period of time. So it's understanding that process, how you can design best for different environments. You know, there's the environment. I'm doing a big job in Monterrey, in Mexico. And they have fantastic concrete. It's the home of Cemex, which is the largest concrete manufacturer. So understanding the local skills and trades, and designing accordingly to those.
Wow. So Alessandra, you also mentioned LEED as a regulation as part of the process of building a sustainable stadium. Do you want to speak a little bit about any challenges that you've had with that, or advantages in having their oversight?
Yes, I think the first and the biggest challenge is to have a LEED project for the government. It was the way we hire construction and services in Brazil, like the public bids, the way it works. It always focuses on to be the lower price, the lower cost. This is like the main issue. And when we are talking about LEED projects, what really is you're looking for a more quality, you're looking for high standards of efficiency. So quality and efficiency doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the lower cost. So we had a very critical issue, and it wasn't easy at all to manage to have high standards in project, high standards in efficiency, maintaining the cost in a very good way, or maintaining the cost in a reasonable way, I would say. I think that was the most challenging one, because the way the Brazilian system of public bids hires, it's controversial in a way to lead projects. This was, first of all, I think the main challenge. And I think that the great benefit about this challenge is the opportunity to have governmental buildings with high standards, with better efficiency. So if you want to say, for me, why a stadium, a governmental stadium should be LEED, I think first of all it should be LEED not only for its operation, but for its a reference, an example, as a legacy. And I think it was the most interesting part of it. And the challenging for the design, it was to look for materials. So we avoid at the most to import materials, even though we can import a lot of beautiful materials out of United States, out of Europe, anywhere. But we try in the Arena Pantanal to avoid that because of cost, because of transportation, because of needs. So I think when you have a LEED project, even though for a stadium, you should have an overall understanding of the sustainability ground. It's not only meeting the points to achieve LEED certification. You should be really conscious and trying to do a very local design project in order to be sustainable.
And keeping that culture and community in mind while building it.
Yeah, of course. It's for people, right?
Yeah, of course. So, Christopher, what are some of your future projects that you have coming up?
Well, the World Cup thing continues. We're doing a number of jobs in Russia for the next World Cup.
Oh, wow. So you're preparing for that already?
Of course, yeah. We've just opened the Sochi stadium, which was for the Winter Olympics, which is in the process of being converted to becoming a World Cup stadium, plus a number of others. And we're in early works in some of the projects in Qatar, again, for the World Cup after that. So,
oh my God, wow.
It gives you an idea of how long these projects take.
Wow. So how many stadiums are you working on at one time?
Well, we're a big practice around the world. But currently, yeah, we're working on about 6 World Cup stadiums for the next few World Cups.
Wow. That's incredible. And Alessandra, what about you? Once the World Cup is over in Brazil, will you continue working with stadium design?
We are doing a training facility for the Olympics. It's not it's Olympic training facility in Fortaleza, and these facilities for 24 sports category of sports. So it's been very challenging and very interesting to manage this facility to home so many different sports. So it's under construction. It's really besides Fortaleza Castelão Arena, and it's been another lead project, and it's for the government. So all the challenges and funds and white hairs are back.
All the fun challenges that go into a project like this. Well, thank you both so much for participating in our fieldwork series. Do you have any last comments about the idea of the stadium being a temple or sustainable design?
Yes, I think whenever you design big areas, big surfaces like the ones for the World Cup, for any kind of big facility, you really, in a city, in a very dense area, it's very important to be aware of the materials, to avoid the heat island effect. I think it's very important how this environment was before the urbanization. And when you design, try to be more gentle, try to not change the total environment, try to be more close to what this area, of this piece of land would function as a nature if it wasn't before the urbanization. Mm-hmm. If we focus in this philosophy, I think the cities will behave much better regarding health, regarding air quality, and of course all this craziness about climate change.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you both so much, and stay tuned for our episode next week. We'll be continuing with our World Cup Fieldwork Experimenta series for the next few weeks during the games. And please, we just opened our first crowd rise as an attempt to bring in funding from all of our fans. So if you could please consider donating, just $1 would help us out at this point. Please find the link on the event page, and just $1 would go a long way. Thank you all so much. Christopher and Alessandra, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.